There was a time when Earth was an alien world, covered not with the forests and grasslands we know today, but with landscapes that seem almost unimaginable. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth and the scent of unknown green life. Towering plants rose from the soil in shapes that would confound our modern expectations, some taller than the largest trees we know today, some producing fruits and spores that defy our notions of what plants can do. These were the plants stranger than science fiction, and they ruled a world long before humans walked the earth. In the early Paleozoic era, roughly 500 million years ago, life on land was just beginning. The first plants were simple, small, and almost invisible to the eye. They lacked flowers, fruits, or seeds, reproducing instead with spores that drifted across barren landscapes. Mosses, liverworts, and their relatives began the slow conquest of land, breaking down rock into soil and creating environments where more complex life could eventually thrive. Their presence was subtle, almost overlooked, yet their role was monumental. These tiny pioneers transformed the surface of the planet, setting the stage for forests to come. By the Devonian period, around 400 million years ago, plants began to grow taller, more complex, and more diverse. Archaeopteris, one of the earliest known tree-like plants, reached heights of up to 30 meters, with woody trunks and fern-like leaves. Unlike modern trees, Archaeopteris reproduced with spores rather than seeds, a trait that linked it to its humble spore-producing ancestors. Fossil evidence shows that vast forests of these proto-trees carpeted the continents, influencing climate by drawing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and helping to stabilize soils. The world's first forests were strange in both scale and form, with trees that combined features of ferns and conifers in ways that seem alien to our modern eyes. Another remarkable plant from this era was the racophyton, a small branching plant with a structure that suggests it may have been able to photosynthesize in multiple directions simultaneously. Its unusual vascular system hints at an evolutionary experimentation, a biological tinkering that would not be repeated in the plant kingdom for millions of years. While racophyton never reached the grandeur of Archaeopteris, it represents the ingenuity and diversity of early land plants, and it reminds us that the forms we now consider normal were once only one possibility among many. As time moved forward into the Carboniferous period, roughly 360 million years ago, Earth became a world dominated by swampy forests filled with giant lycophytes, horsetails, and seed ferns. Lepidodendron, for example, was a towering tree-like lycophyte that could reach over 40 meters in height, with scaly bark patterns that look almost reptilian. These plants reproduced by releasing copious amounts of spores, creating dense clouds that blanketed the ground. The scale of these forests was unlike anything today. They played a critical role in forming the coal deposits that would power human civilization millions of years later, yet in their time, they were simply the strange, dominant life forms of a wet, humid world. Seed ferns, or pteridosperms, added another layer of intrigue. Unlike modern ferns, which reproduce by spores, seed ferns produced seeds, an innovation that foreshadowed the evolution of flowering plants. Their leaves were often broad and segmented, giving them a delicate appearance, but beneath this facade, they were highly sophisticated, capable of surviving in varying climates and interacting with other life forms in complex ecosystems. Some species of seed ferns even developed structures resembling primitive flowers, though these were not true flowers, hinting at experiments in reproduction that would not be fully realized until the rise of angiosperms millions of years later. Moving into the Permian period, roughly 300 million years ago, plants continued to evolve in both form and strategy. Glossopteris, a genus of seed ferns, spread across what is now the southern continents, including South America, Africa, Antarctica, and India. Its thick, tongue-shaped leaves and robust seeds allowed it to thrive in cooler climates, and fossils of Glossopteris provide critical evidence for the theory of continental drift. These plants were so widespread and abundant that they created vast, temperate forests unlike anything today. Yet, despite their dominance, they would vanish in the Permian-Triassic extinction event, the greatest mass extinction in Earth's history, along with a staggering proportion of other life. Meanwhile, the Mesozoic era, the age of the dinosaurs, brought a new cast of plant characters that seems stranger still. Conifers, cycads, ginkgos, and ferns dominated the landscape, each with its own peculiarities. Cycads, for example, resembled palm trees, but were actually distant relatives of the earliest seed plants. Some species grew slowly, living for hundreds of years, while others spread rapidly across floodplains and riverbanks. Ginkgo biloba, now a living fossil, had many extinct relatives in the Mesozoic that displayed bizarre leaf shapes and reproductive strategies, highlighting an era of evolutionary experimentation where the rules of plant life were being rewritten. Among these Mesozoic marvels were the Bennettitalians, a group of seed plants that produced flowers remarkably similar to those of modern angiosperms, yet they were not true flowering plants. Fossil evidence suggests that some Bennettitalians had brightly colored reproductive structures, perhaps to attract insects, hinting at ecological interactions that were both complex and entirely alien compared to today's flora. These plants challenge our assumptions about what plant life could look like and how early ecosystems functioned. The Cretaceous period, beginning around 145 million years ago, marked the rise of flowering plants, or angiosperms, but alongside them existed species that would soon vanish forever. Magnoliids, early relatives of magnolias, brought a new aesthetic to the world: fragrant flowers, complex leaves, and reproductive organs capable of forming fruits. While some of these plants have descendants still alive today, many lineages disappeared entirely, leaving only fossils as a testament to their once vibrant presence. Imagine walking through a forest of strange magnolias with flowers the size of basketballs, each exuding scents that no modern nose could identify. Fruits from this era could be as bizarre as their trees. Some early angiosperms produced seeds encased in fleshy pods or covered in spikes, adaptations to attract or deter animals that would not exist for millions of years. These fruits were essential in shaping early ecosystems, providing food for the first pollinating insects, birds, and small mammals. Yet many of these plants vanished due to climate fluctuations, volcanic activity, and the mass extinction event that wiped out the non-avian dinosaurs, leaving gaps in the botanical record that may never be fully explained. As the Earth settled into the Paleogene and Neogene periods following the end Cretaceous extinction, new opportunities arose for plant evolution. Grasses, shrubs, and broad-leaved trees expanded, but even in these more familiar landscapes, there were species that seemed almost science fiction in their design. Some palms, for example, grew with enormous leaves that could shelter entire animal communities, while others produced fruits far larger than anything we recognize today. Extinct relatives of modern fruits, like early citrus or avocado species, hint at flavors humanity may never taste, a sensory history lost to time. Even in the relatively recent geological past, the Pleistocene, there were plants that would astound us today. Giant ground palms, towering ferns, and fruiting trees adapted to cold glacial conditions existed alongside megafauna. Their disappearance was not always due to climate alone. Human hunting, land clearing, and the introduction of new species contributed to the loss of these plants, demonstrating that extinction is rarely a single cause, but a web of pressures acting over time. What makes these plants truly remarkable is not just their size or their form, but their evolutionary experimentation. Throughout Earth's history, plants have tested almost every conceivable strategy for survival: spores, seeds, flowers, fruits, defensive structures, symbiotic relationships with insects, and even chemical warfare against competitors. Many of these experiments failed, leaving only fossils and impressions in stone as reminders. Others succeeded for millions of years, shaping ecosystems in ways that influence life to this day. When we look at the strange plants of the past, we gain insight into the resilience and creativity of life. Extinct lycophytes remind us that towering forms are not the sole domain of trees. Seed ferns teach us that reproductive innovation has deep roots. Mesozoic cycads and Bennettitalians reveal that interaction with animals has long been a driving force in evolution, and vanished fruits hint at flavors, textures, and ecological relationships lost forever. These plants challenge our understanding of what is normal in nature and expand our imagination of what life can be. In contemplating the loss of these extraordinary species, we confront the fragility of life. Climate shifts, catastrophic events, and ecological